How can you ensure progress from one workout session to another? Now, here are 6 ways on how you can do so. Often when we work out, we tend to go with the flow. We tend to walk into the gym and find training pieces of equipment that are unavailable, and we may work out on those. Or alternatively, if you have just seen some sort of a video from a YouTube channel or read a men's health magazine, and you might want to do some exercises. So there is no real structure to your workout. You might go in and work out and feel good after the workout, but how do you know objectively that you're actually progressing from one workout to the next workout? Is your workout literally a mix of different exercises that potentially make you just feel good? Or you are meticulous in actually calculating your progress, making sure that from one workout to another, you are actually making those gains that you set out to do? So today what I'm going to do is to give you an idea of 6 very important points that you need to stick to with regards to progress. These points will give you some structure on how you can better your workout sessions from today to the next. The first point we're going to talk about is load. That means how heavy you're actually lifting. Now, obviously, the goal is to be able to lift heavier from one workout session to the next workout session. That way, you know that as your load progresses, your growth, your gains actually increase. The problem with load is that while a lot of us focus on increasing the weight, there will come a point where the types of weights in the gym itself can actually be your downfall. Now, let's take, for example, if let's say you're doing a really heavy squat and you're squatting 100 plus kilos. If you're adding on a little bit of weight every single week, and that little increment of weight is typically a 1.25 kilo plate, then the increase in weight is only a small percentage of the total weight that you are lifting, which allows you to continue to increase the weight on a squat quite effectively for weeks on end. So that means you can progress on a squat. But imagine if you're doing an arm workout, like a bicep curl. If you're adding 1.25 kilos per side every single session, and let's say you're only bicep curling 30 kilos, the extra 2.5 kilos represents a large jump in weight for a 30 kilo bicep curl, which also typically means that you are not able to increase the weight as effectively from one workout to another because of the weights in the gym being too heavy as you increase it. So this becomes a practical issue. Even though I'm telling you right now, the way to progress from one session to another is to increase the load. What if the gym is limited to your 1.25 kilo plates as the least increase in load that you can actually add on? You will need to focus on using micro weights. Micro weights are weights that allow you to take up a load by 200 grams or 400 grams or 150 grams, and this allows you to build up the weight very, very gradually. So increase in load is a very important factor, but sometimes it can also be a limiting factor. If you guys do not have any weight plates that allow you to increase the load appropriately, why don't you make those? A great suggestion is to be able to create little sandbags where you can put in 150 grams of sand or 200 grams of sand and slap it over your dumbbells or your barbells, and that really allows you to increase the load from a small and a micro perspective. Hence, you are able to progress with each session. Point number 2, which is the second way on how you can objectively progress, is to increase the reps with a weight that you are currently using. So let's say you may not want to increase the load or the weight, or you don't have the opportunity to do so because you don't have those micro loads that I spoke about in point 1. What do? You can aim to increase the number of reps that you perform from one session to another. Let's say this week you have performed 12 reps, and at 12 reps you're kind of struggling. So what do you aim to do? The next time you perform the workout again, your goal is to beat 12 reps. Aim for 13 reps, aim for 14 reps. And if you can do so, you know that you have objectively improved. So the second way of using reps, instead of staying on the same load, is actually to decrease the load and increase the number of reps that you can perform for a given exercise. So for example, if this week I am doing 100 kilos, but I can only do 12 reps on 100 kilos, and I seem to hit that plateau. That means I cannot pass 12 reps on 100 kilos for this week and the following weeks. I've kind of hit that plateau. What do? Well, a simple way is to actually drop the load, so I reduce my weight and I aim to increase the number of reps that I can perform on the lighter weight. For me, I tend to work with a very simple formula, and that is to drop the weight by 25%, but to aim to increase the reps by about 40%. So to give you an example, if I'm doing a 100 kilo squat and I can only do 12 reps, my goal is to drop the squat to about 75 kilos, and now I want to be able to get 40% more on the 12 reps. So I want to aim for about, say, 16 reps that I can get out of this. So goal here is to perform 75 kilos for 16 reps. I understand that first time if I try this, I probably won't be able to get to 16 reps. But the goal here is always to edge forward, to be able to get to that 16 reps. So right now I may be on 13 reps or 14 reps. Every single week I aim to push myself to get to that 16 reps. And once I do, when I go back to my 100 kilos, often I find that I'll be able to exceed that amount of weight that I'm actually doing. That means I'm able to do more weight for 12 reps, or alternatively, I'm able to do more reps on 100 kilos. So that is an improvement. The third point that you can use to progress yourself is actually improving your range of movement. Now, typically when the weight is too heavy, you don't tend to go down all the way. Why? Because if you do, you probably won't be able to push the weight back up. So every single week, if you're using a certain weight, your goal can be to increase that particular range, to go down a little bit lower, to test your ranges, even to hold it at the bottom position so that you are more stable at a position that you are weak at. If you continually look to increase your range of movement from week to week, you know that you have objectively improved. Now, this sort of concept can also be used for rehab purposes. And obviously, sometimes you get a client that might come to you, and a client that is not able to do a full squat, for example, because they've got knee issues. You can always set a height for them where they can squat to comfortably, and on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, continue to drop that height so that this ensures that they go down a little lower and a little lower and a little lower. So increasing the range of movement can be a great way to ensure progress from one session to another. Point number 4 on how well you can actually progress yourself from week to week is by looking at how well you execute the movement itself. Now, with every exercise, I think most people are able to maintain a certain form, proper posture when you start the exercises off. So the first few reps are always done really well. And then as you get to the end of that particular set, this is where you start to lose your form. And a lot of us do this because you want to hit a certain number of reps. You're trying to yank the weight or pull the weight to yourself. And that's extremely common. One way of ensuring that you progress from one session to another is to maintain that this particular form, the form that you had for your first 2 reps or 3 reps, which was ideal form, is being maintained at the end of the workout. The better you can maintain the execution of the workout, the form, at the end of the particular set, the better you have improved. So you can start to see if you can hold that form really, really well, we know that the weight is objectively lighter or feels lighter for you, hence you're able to do so. That in itself is the progress that you're looking for. The 5th point on how you can ensure progress is monitoring the speed of movement. How fast do you actually move? Now, when I talk about speed of movement, I like to kind of split this up into 2 areas. One of them is how well you can control the eccentric loading of the weight itself. So if the load is too heavy, and let's say you're doing a heavy bench press, you are not able to have full control over how slow you actually let the weight down. Think about it. If it's too heavy, you tend to just drop the weight on yourself. The more you have control on that particular weight, the more you can control it over a particular tempo, the better it is, the better control you have. So that speed of coming down slow tells me you have good control over the weight, and the weight is relatively light for you. In the same way, when you're pressing up a weight, the concentric movement of a particular exercise, when you're pressing up the weight, your goal is to be able to see how well you can actually do that. Some people, when they press up the weight, when it gets too heavy, you take a lot of time to actually push the weight up. Even though you think you're moving the bar or the weight really fast, you're moving it quite slow. If you're able to explode that weight and actually move it up fast, that tells me you have a lot of strength and the load is also relatively light for you. So when I talk about speed of movement from one session to another, think about if this is a very difficult session, you're actually not able to move that weight very fast. Say I've given you 12 reps. On your 12th rep, you're struggling with a particular weight. But by next week, your goal is to be able to move that weight relatively faster. You find that you're able to control it better, coming down on the eccentric, as well as move the weight up more explosively on the concentric. With the decreased speed on the eccentrics and the increased or more explosive speeds on the concentrics, that tells me you've progressed from one session to another. And point number 6, which is probably the most important point that you guys need to adhere to, is sticking to the same workout. Now, how often do we go into the gym and let's say it's chest day and we start to change all the exercises that we do? We change the angles of what we do, we change how we actually perform it, the speed and how we move. And so because we keep changing things up, we don't actually allow ourselves to understand whether we've progressed from one session to another because there is no baseline. So point number 6 is all about setting up a baseline, working from the same program from one week to another, but making sure that you are changing certain variables to ensure that you can progress. Specifically, look at points 1 to 5 that I've spoke about, and this will give you a much better idea on how you can progress staying on exactly the same program. Now, I hope these 6 points have given you an idea on making your workouts more objective, actually quantifying things so that you know that you're actually going to get results from one session to the next, because otherwise you're going to the gym and wasting your time. If you've enjoyed this content, make sure that you put a thumbs up and tell us what else you would like to see in our next video. Give these 5 to 6 tips a go and see how you can objectively progress from your workouts.